And just imagine being up front. What do you truly think is the hardest part of your current job, in your honest opinion? Getting someone out from the OP. Everything else, if you can get someone out from the OP, they'll survive. As long as they don't die on the way to evacuation. God fucking damn it! Hey, brother. Where are you from, brother? Looking so handsome. Let's load up much faster, everyone, as time is of the essence. If the weather conditions are particularly bad or challenging, then we will respectfully ask our capable brothers who operate the tracked vehicles to kindly give us a much-needed ride and assist us in our journey. And we evacuate with the boxes. If the weather's good, we use wheeled vehicles. That's basically it.
We are the Southern Front Initiative Group, meaning myself and a number of my comrades work with unmanned aerial vehicles. We cooperate with all the units operating on the ground, including the medics. Some of the medics are also part of the Southern Front Initiative Group. So how does our work actually happen? We conduct aerial reconnaissance, and if we find, for example, a wounded person who has left the battlefield, we relay their coordinates, monitor their health status, and transmit this information live directly to the medical platoon. On our own initiative, we achieve certain results, find resources for ourselves, and so on. We bring ideas to life to bring victory closer. We have our own clothing production, specifically merch called Southern Front, and the profits from it go to cover our expenses here. In other words, 100% of the profits go straight back to the front.
Welcome to our infirmary. In addition to emergency work, we also provide outpatient care because the weather is cold now and acute respiratory illnesses and bronchitis are starting to appear. Sometimes it even gets to the point of pneumonia because the ground is cold and our fellow soldiers come to us for treatment. Those who don't want to be evacuated come here to get treated, get IVs or injections. That's it. We've set up a small room for the guys. We have equipment for artificial lung ventilation. It was provided to us as humanitarian aid. Here it is. Standing right here. We have a specialist who knows how to operate it. So basically we are now completely ready for anything and everything.
So how do you even leave the throne? This is how we go, just like this. You pray. You rely on higher powers you believe in, and you pray. Hey buddy. Are you alive? Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. There's shrapnel there, brother. There's shrapnel there. Ah! I believe I do. I was called up through a comprehensive and unavoidable mobilization process, and this, in a profound and deeply personal sense, is my solemn and unwavering duty to my beloved family. A responsibility I embrace wholeheartedly. I said it's better if everyone stays home and I'll go. And for 11 months now, actually. It's already been a year and 2 months that I've been here. Did you manage to get any leave from work, perhaps? In this year and 2 months, or rather, in the 11 months I was in the assault company, I got 15 days of leave. They gave me leave for 11 months. I tried to prove that I'm a medic, and that I should be in the medical platoon. But, of course, We were all waiting for the order, and it never came. And I don't even know, thanks to what, after 10.5 months, I was finally assigned as a medical instructor. And even then, it had to reach the governor, my governor. And only after that did they finally assign me properly. We're the medics. The van, Sari.
Shit, the mortar's firing.
Yeah, fuck.
Your life, it's very short, and at any moment it can end because of any stray shell around, a bullet, even a tiny piece of shrapnel. Your life can end. That's the first thing a person coming here needs to understand. You have to be human, and probably, I don't know, to put your own life below the life of a wounded person, to run out there under fire for that, you need something very serious inside you. What they call grit, as it's often called. Character. That's all. Because there are people who might seem small, timid, not big, kind of frail, but thanks to their character, they can get up and carry a person who weighs 100 kilos in their arms for 200 meters to cover. All of that is possible because of character.
Do you have to repair the vehicles often?
Very often.
So after repair, how long does the vehicle usually last?
It depends on what kind of roads we drive on and how often. If the roads aren't rough, it lasts longer. If there are fewer potholes on the roads,
How much time do you typically spend on vehicle repairs each and every day?
the whole day. From morning till evening,
And what do you most often have to fix in the vehicle?
the wheels and the engine. Nothing else really breaks for us.
There have been situations when we were evacuating the wounded and prisoners were handed over to us as well. Naturally, we also provided them with assistance, bandaging, patching up wounds, giving injections. I mean, we gave them antibiotics, and if the condition was serious, we put them on IVs. At first, of course, they were suspicious about the syringes, the injections, and so on. Their clothes are cut open, they're undressed. But we explained to them, guys, either, well, yes, sorry, you're prisoners, but no one here is going to beat you, torture you, cut anything out, or harvest your organs. They would calm down, say thank you, and that was it. There was even one guy who, after he came to while we were waiting to transfer him, actually fixed our car for us. He just said, I know what's wrong with your car, why it's about to break down. That's it. We were grateful to him. It didn't break down for a long time then, so it's treating people like human beings. I really enjoyed working as medical staff, as a medic, and I would like to try, well, next year in 2024 to apply to the Military Medical Academy in St. Petersburg. But unfortunately, there's a catch. There's an age limit. I'll try to apply maybe as a participant in the special military operation. They'll make an exception. But so far, when they called from the unit to check, they were refused. So if you're over 30 at the time of application, sorry, you don't qualify.
A lot of organizations help us out. I really want to say a huge thank you to the Airborne Forces veterans from the Koronovsky district and to the charitable organization Protect and Help. They provide us with an incredible amount of humanitarian aid. And I also want to say a huge thank you to the entire Krasnodar region, because people from different villages and stanitsas send their humanitarian aid. A huge thank you to the grandmothers of Korenovsk and the grandmothers of Khadizhensk. We constantly receive warm knitted socks, all sorts of scarves, and all this help comes from them. you feel this warmth that comes as if from home, as if you're actually at home when you come back after a mission. When you're cold, you put on these warm socks, so to speak, and you feel the warmth of home.